I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmasters, and this is LD and the MC.
Well, as you just heard, the legendary Mr. Bob Cobb once again say, this is LD.
And the MC.
Number 7, Dave. Number 7, we made it.
We did. We made it to 7. If that was your goal, it has officially been achieved. You can stop working now. But, dude, I mean, it's been a lot of fun. Our little podcast has evolved. You know, I don't know if it's exactly what we thought it was going to be or what we thought it was going to be, but it is what it is because of the awesome people that listen. And I can't thank them enough for week after week putting up with our bullshit.
It's actually surprising to me at times, but we have fun. And I think just reading through the comments, except for the, people that maybe don't like us a little bit, most of the comments, people really enjoy this, Dave. And speaking of comments and Mom's Basement, the dreaded Mom's Basement moment is here. And you text me and you said, I got a good one this week, but it's going to be a little different. So I will turn this over to you, Mr. MC.
I think it's a good one. And it's, I mean, whether it's a good one or a bad, I mean, it's a horrible one, really. It's nobody's even written this. I mean, I'm going to make this all up just simply because I think it's that bad. And I don't know about you guys, but I'd love to hear about it to see if the rest of the world is being affected the same way. But all of this COVID crap, I mean, everybody's tired of it. And I'm not belittling it. I'm not, this is not a political view. But one of the worst things that is happening right now, and it's happening in my little town of Port Perry, is a lot of communities are canceling Christmas parades. You know, a holiday parade, whatever you're for. I call them Christmas parades because that's Santa at the end and he comes at Christmas. But Christmas parades, and they're not having them. And the whole reason I get it, social distancing, but of all freaking things we could have done, I mean, every single person drives their vehicle to a parade. Just simply say, okay, guys, don't get out of your vehicles. Everybody parallel park along the side of the road. Maybe get a little fancy. Everybody will back in alongside the road and we can all get together, but be apart. And how amazing of a moment. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't give a crap about Christmas parades. Really, I mean, outside of the odd broken candy cane hitting you in the forehead when they throw them at you, there's not a lot of highlights, but my kids love them. And after this year, it was actually something I was looking forward to. I mean, it was actually one of those things you'd think any community, no matter what they're dealing with, I mean, it'd be so simple to have a Christmas parade. You know what I mean? Just leave us in the car, drive past, do what you want. So I've got thumbs up for the communities that soldiered on because some of them did. I mean, I've heard stories about Christmas parades where you got to drive around the floats, which is really weird to me, but at least they're doing it.
But it's at least throwing something at the problem. You know what I mean? Giving people some sense of normalcy. Like, my thing is with Christmas parades is it's like the official kickoff for a lot of kids, right? I know it's that way in my hometown, and I'm not sure, Mercer, I'm not prepared for this Mom's Basement. I'm not sure if we're actually having that in my hometown. Our Christmas parade may be canceled as well. I'm going to have to look into that.
Find out, because it's nuts, dude. I mean, and it's one of those little things, but it's a small thing that the entire community comes together. And what better message is there to give to just even the effect on kids? I mean, you think of the businesses, the local community businesses that they see that represent in those parades, yes, and all the messages. I mean, what better message? I mean, people need to know that it's going to be okay. We're going to go back to normal. So my Mom's Basement moment is any idiot that cancels your parade without good reason or something like that.
Is it safe to say that COVID is the Grinch? I mean, is it the town officials that are the Grinches here, or is COVID actually the Grinch, MC? I mean, the movie's playing itself out. If they're canceling Christmas, he did his job. That's what he was trying to do.
He did.
You basically live in Whoville, and your mayor is basically the Grinch. And I hope the mayor doesn't watch LD and the MC.
Ironically, I do not know the mayor's name.
Okay.
No, I do. I actually do. I do. I know the mare of my small hamlet. Her name is Bobby Drew. It's a female mare. She's a brand new mare. And she's been doing a pretty good job, but really screwed up the Christmas parade thing. But I don't think it was her decision. I think it's just somebody along the way said, we're not doing Christmas parades. But I can also get it from their standpoint. They're dealing with so many other things that they've got to change. But I don't care. There's certain things that I think need to go on. And that is one of them. And it's one of them that we simply could have easily done safely. But enough of that. There's lots of other cool things going on in the fishing world, isn't there, Duncan?
Yes, lots of things. And on last week's episode, this was highly talked about. Lots of comments. We threw out there the question of who should qualify for the Bassmaster Elite Series, the 2021 Elites. And in that episode, Dave, we talked how, we would have a lot of our answers this week. And we do in a big way. 12, actually 13 new qualifiers, including Pat Schlapper, who won the Federation Championship. But
the Bass Nation National
Bass Nation, I know, I forget my terminologies. There's so many tournaments.
I got in trouble for not giving him enough love this week. I did from one of our viewers, and I appreciate your feedback, but told us that, this is the overlooked for thing. And then I call bullcrap on that because I think that those guys do get their exposure throughout the year. I mean, I still introduce Brandon Palnick as a former Bass Nation national champion to this day. I try to continue it on. So, I mean, yes, but I think everybody deserves more love. But the Bass Nation, I love you, okay? And for the guy who made that comment, I'm sorry. So continue, Luke. Sorry, I just thought that would be a good opportunity for me to mend some fences.
To try to get in there, Mercer timeout to slide in there. So I think it's a testament to the Bass Nation, while we're on that front, to talk about Pat Schlapper. He double qualified for the Elite Series by not only winning that tournament. Yes, that's just one tournament, but he fished the entire Eastern Open division and finished in the top 4. And luckily for a couple guys, he double qualified. Between him and Patrick Walters, who's already an Elite, it allowed some other guys to slide in there in that top 4. And one Scott Martin was one of those guys that benefited from it.
And Patrick Walters, speaking of Walters, we skip over him. I mean, triple qualified for the Classic. He qualified Angler of the Year points from the Elites. He qualified through his Open win, and he qualified through his Texas Fest win. So he triple qualified. So he's like one of the most popular guys in the Elite Series because when you triple qualify, all unclaimed qualifications for the Classic always bump back to the Elite. So somebody qualifies for the Opens and is ineligible, or if there's a multiple qualification system. So Patrick Walters did his job, but definitely Pat Schlapper proven that, man, whether he made it through the Bass Nation or whether he made it through the Opens, he was coming, and he can definitely catch him. I look forward to having him. I like to say his name, really, Luke. I mean, Schlapper.
Schlapper, yeah. I'm going to have him on LBL eventually because I just need to hear him say Schlapper just to know how bad my redneck self is actually butchering that.
We're going to find out it's actually Schlachler.
Probably something very fancy.
No fun to introduce. We're going to change it to Schlapper, whether you like it or not.
You're going to have fun with that. I mean, what are you thinking right now? This is a total sidetrack. We've talked about on LBL, you and I, about your nicknames. I mean, what are you thinking for Pat Schlapper right now? I'm going to put you on the spot. Before we move on, MC, what are you thinking? You got your list?
I'd have to meet the man first. I mean, really, before you nickname a man, you can't just go from Schlapper alone. But your name is Pat Schlapper. There is a high likelihood you probably won't get a nickname because you got a freaking cool handle as it is. You know what I mean? Like KJ Queen, another incoming,
Great name.
Great handle. I mean, I got so excited. Really, that's the truth. I'll be honest. When I see the list, they're anglers, right? I hope they and achieve their goals. I just want them to have a fun name to say. I mean,
absolutely. And Kenta Kimura, that's another great name. You're going to have to get, I hope that's how you pronounce it. He's had an interesting career in the Opens. He's had some great successes. He's been around, but this year, going to make the Elite Series, and I'm sure is definitely going to make that jump. There's some guys in those Easterns you and I talked off the air about a little bit. Josh Strassner is a guy that I actually just kind of got to know through his fishing this year, keeping up with it, but he's he's I'm a Tennessee boy, but I'm right here in Alabama, so I hear a lot of things from the Alabama Bass Trail. And Josh is a guy that has caught him on that, and that is one of the most competitive trails in the country. Some amazing anglers. So Josh caught him there. He won the Toyota Series down at Eufaula. He's a great fisherman in that region, but he was really, really, really competitive nationwide in these 4 opens. And honestly, and I think I told you off air last week, I'm like, Josh, you'll have it in the bag. Lake, Alabama guy, yada, yada, yada. He had a bad first day, and he had to come back and catch them day 2 to even have a dadgum chance to make the elite. So him and a guy named Justin Hamner, who also benefited a little bit from the double qualifications of Patrick Walters and Pat Schlapper. And he got in, and Justin's another name that's synonymous with Alabama fishing as well, that I think will do well next year. So I just want to give those guys some love, because we're all about our Hackneys and our Christies. Justin Atkins, I mean, Forest Wood Cup champ, and he fished like his job depended on it. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And he's a guy who, I mean, you look at the schedule next year, sets up pretty well for some of these incoming anglers, and he's definitely one you're going to want to circle it on. It's a cool group, and it was cool to see all the moving too. Like, I mean, KJ Queen came from 13th place going into, and in points in the Easterns, and made it in. So it's amazing, and a real lesson in, it goes right down to the wire. And one of the things that I got to point out, and I spent a little time talking to Panger from Bass Talk Live this past week, and this is something me and him have talked about for a bunch of years, and it's really become a big topic this past year, but it's something I kind of been screaming about the last few years. And the one thing that stood out for me in this Opens race is the overall points is the way to go. I mean, I've before even the split of leagues happened, I'd been saying for years, man, we need more than 3 events or 4 events in a division.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you get the guys from overall points, and I really hope in the future that's really where we lean more. To me, it makes a lot more sense to take just a few people from the divisions and more people from the overalls, because by the end of the year, not only are those anglers tested, geographically, technique-wise, financially, that's a big deal. You want to realize, you want somebody to be prepared. You don't want to put anglers into a bad situation where they're like, hey, you fished 3 tournaments, you qualified, welcome to the elites. It generally doesn't work out good. No. So one thing that stood out for me this year in the Opens is the overall is truly that's the way to go, if you ask me. I mean, that is, and it's going to become even more important as things change. If you think about it, as at the end of this year, anglers start to dequalify from the Elite Series or get eliminated from the Elite Series. Got to be somewhere for them to go. And if you look in the past, there never was that overall standings and the increased exposure it's getting with, the final day of live being covered, the final day of the tournament being covered on live, all the different things. It's a realistic home for a lot of those people as they get maybe have to requalify in that situation. So I'm a big fan of the overall, in my opinion.
And I saw some comments on Twitter, actually, some guys saying, oh, that's not fair. The overall's not fair to the guy that fishes the Eastern Opens or the Central Opens that can just do that because of his job. And dude, I'm going to say this. Brian New, congrats, Brian, amazing year, won the first Open of the year, qualified for the Classic, but he wins Falcon Rods AOI. And Brian works. He has a job. He works, but he wants this so bad. And in my opinion, if you want something that's supposed to be a dream, you are going to have to sacrifice. You are going to have to do things that are out of the ordinary. You're going to have that year where you're going to fish 3 tournaments in a row. He talked on LBL this week. He had 5 weeks in a row. He was fishing events, dude, like one to the other, then goes home and works and then goes back. And it's all about what you put in it to get to that end game, which is the Elite Series or whatever your goal is in life. You're going to have to work. You're going to have to sacrifice. So to those guys that say, well, it's not fair to the guy that only fishes one division. If you're trying to make the Elite Series, you're probably not going to get to work a lot next year, right? I mean, if you make it, it's like you said, if you fish 4 tournaments and we're like, hey, guess what? Now you get to meet with Mercer in 8 events. Life changes in that moment. So I'm totally with you. The more events you fish, you remember not too long ago, it was 3 tournaments.
Yeah.
And you would have these divisions. When I fished them when I was 19, all 3 tournaments were in the fall, in the inaugural year. And you would have a guy that would have 3 good events in the fall, and then they would go to the elites and just get crushed. Now, you had the ones that made it out, but you would have guys that were regionally really good make the Elite Series. Oh, I'm an Elite Series guy now. And then they got to go to California. And then they got to go to where, and it's like 1 year, see ya. They're either broke, done. So I think that, man, it speaks volumes. The guys that make it through that, dude, Jason Christie led that race. Then Atkins led that race. Then it was like this all year. And it seemed like, oh, Christie's going to run away with it. Nope, he's not. Then he falls out. Then he's back. It was that race to me. I told somebody this yesterday, was one of the most interesting AOY races in all professional fishing this year. And I kept up with it because I had so many friends that I was really pulling for, but it was so intriguing. Dude, I'm watching the standings every day, every event, especially late. So, and Brian Nugent's up winning by 1 point. You don't think that's competitive? So, man, I'm all for the overall. I hope we continue to put a lot of weight on that for the Elite Series.
And the thing, Duncan, to remember is I think sometimes in this sport we forget what the Elite Series is and what the Opens is. And what I mean by that is put it in another sport. I mean, you hear a lot of times open level fishing compared to a AAA league in baseball, right?
Yeah. What
does a AAA league do? Well, it's competitive. You know, somebody wins the AAA championship every year, and that's good. But ultimately, AAA is to prepare you for the big leagues. Mm-hmm. AAA is to make you ready for that. AAA is where they send you back down to. If you go up and you're not ready, you might go back down there to get a little tuning. That doesn't mean your career's over. But that's where your training grounds happen. So you want these guys tested. You don't want to throw them into the lion's den. You know what I mean? Boom, go survive. And you end up with a bunch of bewildered pros that are just walking around punch drunk at the end of the season. Yeah. It's to train you. And I mean, it only makes sense to me to do it that way. But it's, man, we got 12 amazing pros that are going to be part of the Elite Series moving forward. 13, I guess. Man, we actually have a freaking schedule. So not only do we have 12 new elites, we actually have a schedule for 2021.
And arguably, and I think, well, maybe not even arguably, this is the shortest turnaround off season for a guy that makes it through the Opens ever. Can you imagine? And I was talking to Brian New about this. Oh, hey, man, congratulations. You qualify for the Elite. See you in 2 months. It's like, you work all year. We've never had that, man. We've never had that. So here we go. I mean, what do you think? I'm seeing a lot of comments about the schedule, good and bad, because you always get that every year. What's your take as the guy that's going to stand there and weigh every single one of them that come across? What'd you think about it?
I think it's a good schedule. I mean, I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I think it is, it depends on where you judge it. I think it is a great COVID schedule. You know what I mean? Like under the standards that they were having to put this schedule together. I mean, realistically, think about it. You work with host communities. I mean, yeah, sure, there's a hosting fee and that sort of thing, but they actually, I mean, they do so much more than that. I mean, there is so much more than hosting, especially in times like this. You know what I mean? Outside of the hosting fee, there's the things that they do to make sure your event is smooth. You know what I mean? This past year was in some of their situation was to arrange COVID tests and things like that.
Absolutely.
So important things. So to get a schedule out, I think is amazing. The one complaint that you're going to hear from some people is, a lot of venues we've been to before. That's what's going to happen in a year like this. That's what you had to expect. But kicking it off in Palatka, Florida, other than the fact that we've been there before, I'm excited to go there. Giant crowds, giant fish. You know what I mean? And then we go up to Knoxville. I mean, how do we want to deal with? Do you want to deal with them one by one, or overall, I think it's a good schedule. I think that somebody can poke holes in it because there's places we've been before, but I also feel like it's a major event. I know you think that your lake is the one that needs to be featured, and I'd love to go there, but to be honest, go to your local town council and ask them. The last thing some of them want is an Elite Series event, right?
And that's what I've said in some of these situations. You got to understand, even if you're really passionate about where you're from, your lake's great, you think it would be amazing, and you want it televised, and you want the world to know about lake whatever, your town council, your tourism department might not see it that way. They may not have the money to have an event. They may not have the facilities. You may not have the lodging. There are so many things because you've got to house not only a tournament staff, you've got to house over 100 people. You got to be able to house marshals. So many things go into these decisions, not just, man, I think the fishing's pretty good. Well, we need the fishing to be good because take Sabine River. It's a tough fishery, okay? I find the tournaments there to be very intriguing. It's really cool. You never know. Every one of them has been different. They've all been different. Is it going to be a 30-pound-a-day slipper? No. You know that going in. But guess what? That's not reality either for most folks. And there are a lot of people that have tournaments on that lake a lot of the time, team trails and stuff. So I think it's a great tournament venue. They always have big crowds. It's a really, like in the bass fishing, the heart of the bass fishing world down there, Louisiana, Texas, right on the border. So, would I rather see them go to wherever, Clear Lake, I don't know, name one of these big bass factories and other than Sabine? Yeah, maybe, but you've got to understand what all factors go into this tournament scheduling. And this is a point I want to make. When you said, yeah, we've been to the St. John's. Yep. You've been to all these venues pretty much. The elites have never been to Neely Henry. The old top 100 used to go to one of my favorite lakes. It's such a cool lake, especially for 100 boats. Such a cool lake.
I've never been there. What do you expect that tournament to be like?
It'll be predominantly shallow stuff, dude. It's a lot of swim jig, a lot of bank grass, but a lot of current. But the cool thing about it, I love Coosa River events. It's near and dear to my heart. It's like 3 hours from my house, and I cut my teeth fishing a lot of team events and BFLs and stuff as a kid. But you never know what you're going to catch in this, this much water. It could be a 5-pound spot or a 5-pound largemouth. Like there's no place like it on earth. And I'm intrigued by tournaments. That's a good time of year. Should be a lot of fish caught, swimming a jig and buzz baiting around, that shad spawn kind of stuff. But for me, these tournament venues, Gunnersville, Pickwick, St. John's River, these famous 50 million tournaments a year, it feels like, on these places, but they're all different. They all have different storylines. And if you're a fan of the sport, think about the St. John's last year, Dave, compared to the St. John's the year before.
Oh,
no, it looked like it was fake. Truly. Like if you had turned on, you didn't know anything about fishing, and you turned on St. John's 2 years ago and Clun wins, and it's like, are all bass this big? Like a freak show. And then you go this year, massive cold front, crazy tides. There were some great stringers caught. There were some big back, Kyle Walters. Great fish catches, but they're skipping docks with wacky work, completely different tournaments. So I say to you, if you enjoy professional events, they're all going to be different. You can look at that February date on the calendar and go, man, they're going to be sight fishing. Not necessarily. All those are dates. The weather predicates everything, and the water quality and levels and different things.
I totally agree. And I would also say this, when people judge a schedule on social media, really, what are you judging? Let's be honest. When you look at it, are you really going through event by event and being like, oh, Palaco will be fun. This will be fun. Because, look at Lake Fork. Look at the last event on Lake Fork. Nobody on earth would have predicted, number one, that it would have been won that way. And it totally was at a different time of year. It was supposed to be. You never know what to expect. But the other thing is, I think 90% of the people that judge a thing, they go through and they look for a specific lake or a specific state.
That's right.
Well, we're not represented. They don't love us. We do love you. We're just trying to keep a schedule going. I mean, let's be realistic. We just came off a season where bass was one of the only pro sports there is out there that ran events. I mean, literally, when you look at it, you're comparing us to the NBA was in the bubble. NBA was in the bubble. Major League Baseball every single sport did things, but we're living in a world where the Toronto Raptors are going to be the Tampa Bay Raptors this year. You know what I mean? The Blue Jays played in Buffalo. There's a lot of weird crap happening. So
sure.
Most of the anglers I talked to, actually all the anglers I talked to, when I asked them their take on the schedule, they were like, we are happy to have a schedule. I didn't hear a lot of them complaining. So I think a lot of the stuff you hear is just, it's human nature. I mean, if somebody asks you, what do you think of this restaurant? It's today's world. I mean, you don't think I love their burritos. You tell them, I don't like the frickin' snow piece. They're cheap with their snow piece. I don't like them.
Well, I think, and I understand it's regional anglers, different parts of the country, obviously. You know, a guy that lives in New Jersey, New York, he probably doesn't enjoy watching a Tennessee River ledge fishing tournament like Pickwick in June. Could be. Pickwick also has a lot of grass. That one can go either way. Pickwick is changing because of the pressure on the ledges. But I have heard guys say that to me. Yeah, I'm not interested. All that deep cranking stuff, I don't get to do that. Now, I've had people say that.
I don't get that, though.
I don't either. I want to see it all. I want to see it all. I want to see all the techniques. I want to see the drama, regardless of the technique. I want to see a dude vying for his first, blue trophy. I want to see a guy vying for Angler of the Year. And to that point, you're starting in Florida, sunny and 85 potentially, right? Then you're going to go to Fort Loudon, Tellico in East Tennessee 2 weeks later in February. It's not going to be sunny and 85. That's going to be Dave Mercer weather. For sure. You're going to be the only person there dealing with that, Will. I feel like, because it could be a disaster.
That is a fallacy, just so you know, on behalf of all Canadians. Just because we live in the cold does not mean we like the cold.
I feel like you deal with it, though. It's in your blood to deal with it.
No. Our feeling is I'm in frickin' Tennessee. I didn't come here to deal with frickin' colds, okay? That's how our theory is. It's worse when you leave. But you're right. I mean, it's going to be very diverse. I love the fact that you look how we bookended our season. We started in Palatka, an old friend and an amazing crowd, and we ended in Waddington, an old friend and an amazing crowd. I mean, you want to talk about crowds this year. I mean, the two communities that have our records is Waddington and Orange. So if crowds can come back at any kind of thing, man, we're going to have a pretty awesome show out of people because and a great way to end the year. You know what I mean? To kick it off strong and end it strong in Waddington. I think it's going to be a great year. I mean, my only hope is that it just all goes off on time.
Schedules, no cancellations, no Mother Nature interfering. Because that's something like this year. Dayton was canceled. We were going to have the Dayton event. It was going to happen. And then flooding happened. And then you don't get Dayton until it's very tough in the year. So and that always happens. But fingers crossed that we can pull it off. And I think, like you said, it's a good schedule. And for me, a lot of it's kind of close to me. So maybe I get to see my favorite Canadian.
Yeah. It's very LDMC friendly.
If I show up and I'm like, just holding up signs and stuff in front of you, and you didn't know I was coming. Like, hey, can we talk?
Yeah. Well, you'll be working for that other league by that point, so I probably won't be able to publicly talk to you. I do want to talk about one thing when it comes to schedules, and this isn't planned, but one thing I don't even know what word I'm searching for, but there was a really good word that would have made me sound smart, but it didn't come out. So instead, I'm just going to move past that moment. And the one thing you're going to hear people talk about, no West Coast. You don't care about the West Coast. Man, I mean, it's plain and simple. There's nobody on earth who wants to come to the West Coast more than me. I love when we go to the West Coast. To me, as an MC, the coolest, different, more places we can go is awesome. But come on, let's be realistic. With everything anglers are going through, I mean, the one thing that we're all fans of different areas we fish. We're all fans of different techniques we fish. We're all fans of different leagues that people fish. But the one thing that we're all can agree on that we're fans of is the anglers. You know what I mean? And everything they sacrifice to get where they are. Why is there no West Coast tour? I mean, come on. Really, if you realize just the financial strain that all these guys are going through, and then you're going to add literally days of driving onto that, and the amount of gas, and the amount of expenses. I mean, if you were expecting a West Coast tour this year, you're crazy, man. I'm just being honest. We'd love to come to the West Coast, but it's got to make sense for all of the anglers. It's got to make sense for the tour, and it's got to make sense for our host community. I mean, the West Coast is also some of the most stringent lockdowns too. So in all of these, just so you know, none of this is coming from Eric Lopez or anybody that makes those decisions. This is coming from stuff that I see. And I just wanted to answer it. So everything. What's that?
The West Coast thing, I see it a lot. You see that a bunch. West Coast anglers are some of the most proud anglers in the country. Come out here. It's not fair for the West Coast guys to always have to fish on the East Coast. But I'll say it's like the eyes have it, right? There are a fraction of the field are West Coast anglers. So to ask guys that are Texas to Florida to New York to make this 3 to 4 day drive to go out there, it's a lot. And the guys that I know that have made that run with bass, the times they've gone, they love it.
Yeah.
They love it. They love the lakes. I mean, you loved Lake Havasu the last time.
Oh, I loved it.
You did love Havasu.
A lot. Good old days.
But they love the West Coast, and they made family trips out of it, made a lot of great memories, caught a lot of fish that they would not catch here. But like you're saying, the cost of doing business, even for bass, to load up the tournament crew, the trailers, the this, the that, and then go out. Man, it's a tough deal. So you got to understand that. If you're wondering why they're not coming to the Columbia River in Washington State, that's a long ways from Gerald Swindle's house in Guntersville, Alabama.
Hey, I'll call a spade a spade. The last time we had the West Coast on our tour, it was part of the reason the tour broke up.
That's right.
I mean, that was one of the reasons that guys said, I'm out of here. They're sending us out west. That was one of the straws that broke the camel's back, really, when guys were making that decision. So it's not a bass thing. And it's not anything against the West. It's just a cost, dollars in, dollars out situation. Right. And everybody from a different area deals with that. You know what I mean? Come on. How come people from Canada have to travel to do these events? Just because we should have a Canadian league too, right? And I get it. That's another country. Maybe you should have a Northern league then, but we don't. It's just not how it is. And I wish it was, but it's not easy to make the pro tour. You know what I mean?
It doesn't want a Canadian and only Canadian league. Everybody that has to fish against the Johnsons and Gussie.
They're just happy they left to another league.
Everybody in Canada gave a collective sigh of relief when those guys were like, hey, we're going down south. Like, we are in.
The oddest group, and it doesn't matter whether it's the Johnstons or Gussie or who it is. I mean, if you are a good angler, if you're really good, like I don't mean like good, like every once in a while me and Duncan catch a bass. But if you're really good, sooner or later, they're going to call you a cheater. And every great angler that is great today in the Elite Series at one time was a cheater to their local group. And that's the group that I love now with watching what Gussie and the Johnsons and them are doing. And more the Johnsons, to be honest. Gussie's too nice. Nobody ever accused him of anything. Nicest man in the world. But the Johnstons, I mean, they're a little edgy, not near as nice, and very lethal. So a lot of people called them cheaters. And I love those people were very vocal. Like, they cheat, they're stalking docks or doing this or doing that. And they don't say that stuff anymore. So the moral of the story, kids, is if you want to be a great angler and they're calling you a cheater, just make it to the Elite Series and
catch them.
Maybe they'll stop.
Catch them on live all the time and threaten Angler of the Year constantly and win tournaments and all that good stuff, and they'll stop calling you a cheater.
Eventually.
I won't say they'll like you any better, because if you notice with the Johnsons, they'll still go home every now and then and be like, hey, we're going to jump in the derb.
They do. They do. They're horrible. They're relentless that way. They just,
and they just giggle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Want another one.
Oh, they're horrible. It's Terrence and Philip. I've called them that for years. Shut up, Terrence. Screw you, Philip. They argue all the time. But the only thing that they get along with is just winning. I mean, they're good at freaking winning. They split all their money. They're going to win a lot, but they got a lot of new guys coming in. But I think they're happy with their schedule. But I want to talk to you about one topic that has really been big for me. I've really been thinking about it a lot lately, and it's
serious. It has a serious feel to it, and I want to be ready for it. So
okay, it's very serious. It's very serious, and it's a debate that's gone on for years. And it's. I mean, I won't beat around the bush. It's real or fake. Do you like real ones or do you like fake ones? And of course,
I'd like to say, Dave, I'd like to just jump in there. I mean, we're talking about what I'm assuming you're. After
Christmas
talking about
trees.
women and fishing last week, I feel like this is dangerous ground, but
Christmas trees, Luke.
Oh,
I've weirdo. I mean, it's December. I was talking about Christmas trees and whether some people go real, some people go fake. Everybody's got their own. There's no right. There's no wrong. I'm going to tell you. I am 100% a fake tree guy. Screw the real trees. I mean, they get thistles in you. They don't make your house smell that good, really. Let's be honest. The cat pisses in them. It's a bit of a mess. And if you haven't watched Christmas Vacation, stuff can go awry. Okay.
Stuff lives in them.
So I wanted to just have this debate with you. Number one, to find out which direction you go, real or fake. And then also our viewers, is the real tree the way to go or is the fake tree the way to go?
I think we open this by just saying, guys, just comment below real or fake. That's all.
Yeah, that's more fun.
Yes. Just comment real or fake. Don't say Christmas trees. Just comment. That way, if some guy is trolling the comments and just pops on there and they don't actually watch the podcast, they don't make it this far in, they're like, whoa, what are these guys talking about?
Can I change my answer then?
Yes.
I like them really fake.
Really fake? The most like built-in light.
Yes, built-in lights and everything.
Yes.
What
really,
is the Dunkin household?
So the Dunkin household, I've got it. You're gonna think that I made this up. But so my family, my grandfather, who's no longer with us, and my grandmother, the Dunkins, they owned and started in the 60s a produce market in my hometown. And my entire life, my childhood growing up at this produce market, and to this day, my first cousin now runs this Dunkin's market. They sell Christmas trees at Halloween. They sell pumpkins. They sell stuff for your
Dunkin fir.
Like a Dunkin fir. Yeah.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, they're famous. Actually, I don't even need to be doing this podcast because I get that tree money, boy. Tree money. But it's like sap. Makes your fingers stick together. So, but my childhood is filled with memories of being down there. They had the lot. So they always close at 6 p.m. But during Christmas, because there wasn't a Walmart in our little town and there wasn't Christmas tree lots, and you went to Dunkin's market to get your Christmas tree for everybody in our community. So I have these memories of being down there with my grandmother, my dad loading Christmas trees up for people. And it was really cool. But I will say, and they flocked the trees, a good flocking,
A tree, what's a tree flocking?
Do you know what that is for real?
No, what is a tree flocking?
They had this building. It's basically like a dye for trees. My grandmother, my entire life, either had a white Christmas tree flocked or a pink or a blue. They did 3 colors.
This is a southern thing, dude. There's no flocking trees in Canada.
Comment below if you know what a good flocking is. But that's what it is. And they take like this hose.
Are you kidding me?
Square on everything I've got. But they would sell these trees down at my family store. And now you have these pumpkin patches have popped up, which is a very big business, and these Christmas tree farms. And I actually have a friend, a guy that you know, Sam George, who fished the Bassmaster Opens for years. We fished FLW some. Sam and his family have a Christmas tree farm, live trees.
Are you fucking kidding me?
I'm not flocking kidding you at all. He doesn't flock these trees, but in 2 weekends in North Alabama, he opens the weekend of Thanksgiving every year. Sam, at his Christmas tree farm, they sold like 1,000 trees. They sold 1,000 real trees. So I think that the whole going to pick out your tree thing is an event. For me personally, and my grandmother will roll over in her grave when I say this, I will agree with you. I am fake all the way. I am fake. I hate them. I hate the mess. I hate the bull crap that comes with them. So I say all that.
My family business, my family history. We've been flocking trees since flocking was a flocking thing.
No, I'm not. So my wife last year, the week of Thanksgiving, says, I've never had a real tree in my life. This is my wife. She says, never had a real tree. I want 2 real trees. I want one in the dining room, and I want one in our living room. I want you to go get them. I'm like, you're sure? It's a lot of maintenance, a lot of whatever. She's like, and I grew up.
Seems like a Dunkin thing to do, though. I'll be honest, like that. If I follow your Insta stories, he's out chopping a tree. That's what.
Of course, yeah. So I go to my family's business, and I get 2 trees. Bring them home. She's over it within like 10 days. Needles everywhere. So this year, but she never tells me because, as you well know, she doesn't want me to be right. Because I told her, you probably won't enjoy this as much as you think. So fast forward to this year, and I walk in the other day, and there are just 2 new fake trees up in the house. I didn't say a word. I just knew I wasn't going to get real trees, and now she's got fake trees up. So at the Dunkin house, we are much like the Mercers, and we love fake. We love fake.
Wow. It's better for us. It's better for us to be fake, too, because I actually, when we started talking about trees, I Googled it to find out about the flocking, and I've come across trees are in short supply this year. More people are celebrating Christmas because they're freaking miserable. There's more lights, more trees, and everything. There's a lot of people.
That's a good thing.
About freaking time. Yeah, really.
Somebody in Canada doesn't cancel it that you can't have a Christmas tree.
You definitely can't drive around past them. That's for sure. We're not having any parades. Speaking of fake, something that I thought was fake when I first read about it, dude. I don't know what the frick has happened. I mean, normally this is flocking nuts. Okay, I'm going to tell you, there's no other way. This has gone off the rails. This has so gone off the rails. But
hey,
just a few weeks ago. Go ahead.
When was it on the rails? When was it on the rails? 7 episodes. When has this been on the rails? Continue.
I don't know. Let us know in comments. When was the show on the rails?
They will.
So Jake Paul, we watched him fight. He stole the Mike Tyson card that night. He fought Nate Robinson. Nate, former 3-time NBA slam dunk champion. His first fight, Nate put him out. Or no, Jake knocked Nate out cold, face first on the canvas. So you figure, I mean, the Paul brothers, this is the fighter. This is the one. I mean, he's taken his rightful place on the top wall. Just 2 weeks later, his brother, Logan Paul, older brother, actually, I believe Jake rode his coattails to success, I believe, as far as I can tell. I mean, his younger brother, I'll just tell him that. I mean, I wish my older brother had started an awesome, wicked YouTube channel. I have a lot more people listening to my bullcrap. But anyways, Logan Paul is freaking fighting Floyd Mayweather, allegedly. Floyd Mayweather put it on his Instagram. I guess it's going down February 20th. I don't even know what to make of this. It's stupid. I mean, can Floyd avoid him? Can Floyd punch him? Yes. Is there a chance that Logan Paul can hit him? Yeah. It's stupid. It's just like, it's like stupid. It's really dumb. Like I love fighting. I mean, I
was going to say you love fights. So there's not even that shock value in it for you to see Floyd Mayweather potentially, No,
because Floyd Mayweather won't put himself in a position that he'll be in trouble. I mean, there's no way. I mean, he didn't put himself in trouble when he was in a fight with Conor McGregor, who is
terrible.
I mean, an MMA fighter, granted, but a world-class striker. Yes. Now you got a dude who who found a dead body once in the forest and became a YouTube star. Literally, that's how he made it, as far as I know. Me and Duncan looking for our dead body so we can become YouTube stars. We are still searching. Hopefully it doesn't end up being one of us. But that's what the freaking world's become. Like, how bad is it that now, tell you what, I'm going to get this many followers and I'll just
you can do
whatever I want. You can do whatever you want.
Oyster. He has however many followers. My kids could probably tell you, even though they are supposed to get in trouble for watching the Paul boys. But I can tell you.
Are they banned at your house?
Yeah, for a couple years now because of and I've got a terrible mouth, but not really with my kids as much. But one of my kids repeated something that they heard Logan Paul say at the dinner table, and I was like, "Hey, why did you just say that?" And with the big tears rolling down his face, he said, "Logan Paul said it." And I was like, "Well, guess what? You're never watching again." So, we made a ban at the house because I didn't need him saying that in the cafeteria, right? What he said was, it was pretty great.
Let us know in the comments what you think he said.
What you think he said? It was, I was like, wait, where did, and it was like his little innocent face was like, Logan Paul. And I'm like, well, I don't know Logan Paul, but he sounds like you maybe don't need to sub and like and comment below. But we do live in this world where Logan Paul is not a boxer. Jake Paul, they're not boxers, but they've got so much money now and quote fame from this YouTube thing. Now they just do what they want. And I love that. I mean, that's cool. But it's like you get to challenge one of the, Jake has been bring it on, Conor McGregor. And I think everybody collectively wants to see him get his face beat in by Conor McGregor. I mean, I don't know.
Conor's just to defend Jake. He's not going to fight Conor right away. He's not going from Nate Robinson. He's going to fight a few people, one of which may be Logan Paul, his brother, is on this list of people. He's going to fight Dylan Dennis, Conor McGregor training partner, famous for the Khabib fight. His brother. But Conor is the final piece of that. He says he's going to knock him. But the weirdest thing is both these dudes are like 220 pounds, and they're calling out guys that fight at 150 pounds. But I still take the guys that are 150 pounds. I mean, it'd be like a whole bunch of little stones coming at you. It's like running a bass boat in freaking hail.
Yes. And my thing is with this situation, this is what this makes me think of. And you know what? Bring it in the comments if you don't like what I'm about to say, but we've seen this, not this exact situation, but we've seen this start to play out a little bit in the YouTube fishing world. We've got the most hated guys in the world by some people in the Googan Squad. They're hated. They've got millions of followers. Now they're kind of changing up what they're doing. But to you,
they all got hot girlfriends and freaking sport cars now. I love the Googans.
I'm a fan. Okay, like I like
Hercules.
People that have whiskey bottles and shoot guns and just like love fake trees. Like I am, and just everything is just superficial as hell. I'm never going to get to live that, so I'm living vicariously through you, Googans. But to you, MC, who make, you make your living covering professional fishing in this fishing industry, will we ever see the likes of, say, and Justin Rackley's fish tournaments forever, but a Lunkers TV who's very outspoken about the tournament world and those that occupy it and they're, they don't move the needle and that whole argument. Would we ever see a Logan Paul Lunkers TV versus a Floyd Mayweather KVD Brandon Polinick, would we ever see that? Okay, I'll say this. Hey, Rob, get at your boy here. Would you take that bet? Would you fish like a 5-fish tournament? And I know that's not your deal, but you love fishing. Would one of those guys, would they take it against a seasoned pro, one of the biggest names in the game? MC, what do you think? Would they do it?
I think they do whatever. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't they? I mean, I think if a Rob, number one, I'd love it. I'd love Rob to make the Bassmaster Classic because, you think Matt Robertson in his fur coat made a freaking, I mean, he will roll in towing his vehicle with a freaking Lamborghini. Cammy Cakes will be on the out the sunroof.
Oh, powerful.
Horns to the sky, a bazooka in the other hand. I mean, it will be freaking incredible. I mean, it would be
Rambo.
a majestic moment. But I mean, I think for sure they would take that, if that was ever set up, because I think it's a no lose for them. I mean, if Rob goes there and fishes against KVD,
of course.
I mean, it's kind of like you asked me if I would fight, go in the ring. And I did watch some boxing footage afterwards, and I may change my answer. I watched a video that was
forever right here.
The sound of heavyweight boxers punching each other. I watched that and I might have changed, but you asked me if I would have done that. I think I was in the same situation. I mean, I'm not meant to win ever. I'm just going to go in there and cover up. If Lunkers goes and does that, I mean, if KVD were to open up to it and he were willing to do it, I mean, it's a win-win for Rob, I think. And I think Rob is rich enough that he could make it a win-win for Kevin. You know what I mean? Because
it's a win-win for both. It would be, in my opinion, a win-win for the industry. I think that would be cool. Like, try to settle. And I know there are people with opinions on both sides, but I'm like, set at least in one event, it's hard to settle anything like that. But I think bring those two entities together could be kind of cool.
Other topic, but somewhat related. Let's remove the pro YouTuber thing from it right now. Like, it's not going to be a Googan versus Kevin, but if we had like a YouTube battle of generic YouTubers, I'm not talking about people like me that are on YouTube, or even some of the pros that are on YouTube they're pros that do YouTube. You know what I mean? I mean, Zona's on YouTube, but he's talking about legit YouTubers.
That's all they do. Yeah.
That's all they do. Who is the top of that? I mean, how awesome would that freaking tournament be? The tournament of the YouTube, because they trash talk each other like crazy.
It's a toxic world, man. It's a toxic world where they don't really pull for each other unless they're, quote, like in the squad together. And you have, and I'm not saying the Googans, I'm saying there are several little cliques. That's what I find out. The more I kind of dive into that YouTube world, there are cliques. These guys run around with this guy. This guy stands alone. These guys are over here, and it's vicious. And man, the fans across, because there are a lot, I mean, you look at the numbers, a lot of people watch those videos. So I think if you put them in some kind of Royal Rumble fishing tournament situation, I think we settle who's who. And you have some of those guys when you watch those videos that are more legitimate tournament style anglers, and you have some that are really good at making fishing YouTube videos, if that makes sense. They know what they do.
Yeah, and I think that the world needs both of them. I think that anybody that sits there and says, "Oh, he's not a tournament angler," or "She's not a tournament angler," none of that matters. I mean, people are tuning in for, entertainment. People are tuning in. Here's my wish always, that fishing gets bigger, the more people promote fishing. Nothing would make me happier than if me and you, how about me and you, Jake Paul, Logan Paul?
I'll smash that dude.
LD and the MC calling you freaking out right now. We will smash you. We'll have a triathlon. I mean, you guys, probably pugilism will be the first one.
I didn't know I was agreeing to a triathlon.
Whatever. They're rich. They're rich.
We're doing whatever.
We get do you realize we get plays in the hundreds, Luke? We're trying to move the needle here, okay?
Okay. So you want me to look into the camera and tell Jake and Logan Paul that you've never seen a triathlon athlete quite like myself? I'll be ready. You think that was enough to get them?
No, they probably won't even see this video. Let's be honest. But I would love to hear from the viewers who your two YouTube. Who do you think? Who'd you like to see?
Your dream setup.
Match up your dream setup of YouTubers if they had to compete against each other. But I got one topic that we want to finish with, and it's not one that I'm happy to finish with. But the second week in a row, I guess we're going to finish our podcast talking about somebody we lost. And this past week, Luke, the industry lost Ron Linder. And Ron, an amazing, amazing man. And so many people have talked about why he was so amazing. You know what I mean? He was an innovator and an inventor, a creator, an entertainer, all these different things. But I think the reason that Ron Linder was so amazing to me, I mean, I grew up sitting on a couch, looking up at a TV, dreaming of fishing and watching him. Him and Al were definitely two of the major movers in my career anyways, as far as when I started dreaming about this dream. But what amazed me most of all about those guys is everything they had accomplished. And Ron Linder, every single time you saw him, always had time for you, always knew way more about you than you ever imagined. And I'm talking, when you first start, let's be honest, in this industry, when you first start making waves or people start noticing some of the stuff you're doing, there's a lot of those older guys that kind of build up a wall and push you away.
And they're a tight-knit group. It's hard to get in that group.
Yeah.
So I can imagine.
Exact opposite, man. I remember, the first time I met Ron Linder, the passion and excitement in his voice, right down to the last time I ever worked with him, which was in Mille Lacs at that Angler of the Year championship. Yeah. And man, the dude couldn't stand. He had so much passion and so much love for the sport, but he literally could not stand. We weren't on camera. We needed to have a chair for him because he was dealing with back problems. And you think of where he was at in the sport, everything he's accomplished, and it'd be so easy for a guy like that to be like, I'm out of here. Enough. I'm going to go. Let's go, Al. Get in the car. Never once. I mean, dude, he was so excited to have the Elite Series there. He really just was one of those people. Every time I hung out with him or saw him, I left there wanting to be better at what I do and wanting to be more like him. So the world lost a good one. And one that we'll all truly miss. But Ron, thank you for everything, and our thoughts and prayers with the whole Linder family. I mean, truly one of the best and truly one of the greats.
And unfortunately, and I've said this, we've lost some musicians this year. They're just these legendary guys from kind of that same age range that Ron was in, and these folks are innovators. We're all followers essentially. We're trying different avenues, but these guys were the first. They were the first to do these things. And I remember being a kid, and just to kind of tag on to what you're saying, TNN aired in Fisherman Television. And for a kid in Tennessee, I got to see parts of this country that I could never imagine getting to go to and fish, seeing techniques. And I can remember my dad, who is like me, very Southern, but him being like, they're doing another damn pike show, and he'd leave. And I'm like,
throwing that stupid jig worm.
Yeah, the jig worm. Don't ever throw it to him on the weed lines. But I used to tape every single one of them, man. I would tape that, and I would tape the Bassmans. I loved it. I was always had In Fisherman magazine at the house. Every year we had a magazine sale at school, and you could get a subscription to In Fisherman. And I made my mom every year. I made her get it. So it was definitely a shame to see that. And unfortunately, though, like I'm saying, there's no replacing these guys. There are a lot of great guys coming up, but these innovators are, once they're gone, man, all we have is just the mark they left. And what a mark he left on the fishing industry. And I thought that was cool. Him being on Bass Live, you just couldn't help but smile, man. And seeing their passion for those Mille Lacs smallmouth. They hold that lake and that region so near and dear to their heart, but just seeing them on live, because they're all about conservation. They're very conservation minded guys, and it was really cool. So that was awesome.
It was, that day was nuts. Like, to see the true passion.
Yeah.
And Ron especially, you know what I mean? Like, he'd be asking me, because obviously we know where guys are fishing. He's like, where's so-and-so? And I'm like, boys, that's the Red Door Run. I can't believe he's catching them on the Red Door Run. Like, I mean, he's just like, and he
incredible, man.
Knew every single spot. He knew every area. And he was so proud and so amazed that fishery was being highlighted. And it was, he was so much more to this sport than just an icon. You know what I mean? He was literally one of those guys that just made every meeting and every situation better. And 86 years old, was fishing 2 weeks before he passed away. I mean, that what else can you ask for? That's
I need that to be my story in life too, man. I hope that I'm fortunate enough to be that healthy and that passionate about it at that age. For sure.
Amazing, man.
That's incredible, man. What is also incredible to me is the fact that we're ending right here, 7 episodes in of LD and the MC. And I think I speak for both the MC and myself in saying we appreciate each and every one of you. Crazy amount of folks tuning in every week. Dave, you were telling me Facebook and Instagram and the YouTubes. But make sure if you're driving down the highway and you don't want to watch it on one of those platforms, you can also listen to the audio version of LD and the MC through iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Pandora, the TuneIn Radio, you name it, you don't have an excuse, is what we're telling you, right, Dave? We're telling you don't have an excuse.
No excuse. No excuse. And another group that doesn't have any excuse, and I'll leave it with this. Googans, Jake Paul, Logan Paul, what you gonna do when LD and the MC run wild on you?
Cowbell. Hit him with that. Hit him with the bell, Dave.
We're out.
Yeah, you heard us.